I wanted you to tell me there was a lot of traffic.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna
and
say
that's
that's
what was
the
going
opposite.
on.
There's so much traffic out there. It took me forever to get here.
Okay, well, we're gonna get started. We have our August birthday babies. We have a ton of birthdays in August.
So
Holy moly. So happy birthday to those people. Maybe they're all out partying for their birthday this week.
Where is everybody?
Maybe people forgot that we actually get back to work in August, which is why we didn't bring Boyd in July, because everyone thinks July, the whole month, is a holiday. And then we've got some work anniversaries too. You guys, Nan King, 22 years at KW. That is impressive.
Wow, that's awesome.
And she's going strong. Right, Sean? She's still keeping her license, going strong. Rhonda's been here 14 years. Natalie, 7. Blaine, 6. Chris Bradford, not in the room, but 6 years at our KW family.
Yeah.
And Kelly and Diana, welcome 1 year. We welcomed a bunch of new people in July, so if you see some unfamiliar faces, it probably means that they need to get a big hello from you. So say hi to people as you meet them. We have going on this week in the Market Center Breakthrough 120. So that happened, it started yesterday, but the good news is if you missed yesterday, you can still come today. So you do not have to attend all the sessions to have this come to any of them, but I do want to just say for 1 second, these are running Monday through Friday. I want you to think about this as like boot camp for your foundational building skills. So yesterday we covered all things database. Right, Denise, you were in the class.
Yes,
we covered all things database. We talked about why we need a database, what we should be tracking in our database. And fun fact, Gary Keller says that database is your business, and yet it is one of the messiest things that we see. Boyd is shaking his head in the back. It is one of the messiest things that we see with agents of all skill set level. It is proven that a database of over 201 people make about 40 to 50% more of people with less than 200 people in their database. And today we're going to be talking about, because yesterday we covered database, today it's all about how do you follow up with your database. So we're talking smart plans, we're talking value touches, we're talking why it's important, how to filter, how to tag your database to be able to make sure you're giving people the appropriate value. So that is today at 1:30 in the training room. If you would like to join us, it will end promptly at 5. And then Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m., we're doing on CoachAllison.com our Breakthrough 120 huddle. So if you came to Breakthrough 120 the last time we did it, you know that we meet every day for accountability. And then if you're part of the session, I know you joined us today. If you're part of this session, you can start joining those accountability huddles anytime. Also, if you just want a little more accountability, but you didn't actually go to Breakthrough 120, but you're like, I really do want to report my numbers to somebody every day. Accountability is the key to success. So if you can track your numbers, even if it's, hey, I had a goal of 10 conversations and I hit 2, it helps you to track them. It makes you much more aware of your activities throughout the day when you have to report them back out to somebody the next morning. And so that is 8:30 every morning, and we make it super easy. It is on Zoom. You don't have to have your camera on. We don't care if you're in your pajamas, but you should show up for yourself and your business. And then today, if you have any tech questions, our tech bar is open at 1:30. And then Pathway to Production call is this Friday. If you guys are not aware, I think we've talked about this a lot, but Carrie Butler.
Russie, we canceled Pathway to Production this Friday.
Oh, I forgot. We did cancel Pathway to Production this Friday. Sorry, we're taking a little pause in Pathway to Production this Friday. I did not communicate that to Vincie. So Vincie, we're not doing Pathway to Production this Friday. But Allison, Carrie, and I have been covering the basics of building just your path to production. So this, for the last month, we have been focused in on the one thing, and we are just about to wrap that book. And then I'm super excited because we're going to dive into all the playbooks, which will be fun. Mm-hmm. So we're going to dive into the MRE playbooks and actually walk through some of those with you and what to do. And honestly, I mean, Carrie and Allison and I are a good time. So if you guys are not joining those calls, you're just really missing out, is what I have to say. Marcus is going to be here next Wednesday. So next week, there's going to be a switch. We're not having team meeting on Tuesday. We're doing it on Wednesday. It is at NWAR. He is going to be teaching a 2-hour version of his 4-hour class, Toy Tool Teammate. And it is all about how to go from just like playing around with AI and creating like your fun images that, I mean, did anyone else make a 4th of July photo of themselves super patriotically, or that was just me? I don't know. That's me using it as a toy, and then how to go from a toy to a tool to actually using AI as a teammate in your business. This is something he is teaching across the country right now, so make sure you register for that and show up. It's at 10:30. Oh, there's a place right here in the front row.
Can I sit up front?
Yes, you can. Thanks.
All
Welcome. And then this is your actual very last call. Also next Wednesday in the evening, we're doing our agent appreciation night at the ballpark, 6:30 p.m. at the Raptors Field in Ogden. And you need to RSVP now. Vinci has to finalize tickets tomorrow. So if you want to go, it is actually your very last chance. Huge thank you to Equity, High Mountain, and Unity Home Loans. These guys are always like #1 in our corner supporting us. And it makes it possible for us to go do fun things. So bring your family, come out for a night on the ball game.
Did you say that the team meeting next Tuesday is canceled?
Yes. Next Tuesday, is that accurate? That
It'll
is,
be
right?
on-
Okay.
It's on Wednesday.
Yeah, so instead
At
of Tuesday
Enmar.
team meeting, Wednesday at Enmar
Just wanted to clarify.
with Marcus. Yes. Thank you for clarifying.
So that's a busy day.
That is a busy day.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna
Now,
be
like,
all,
I'm actually looking at.
we're
the
gonna be
calendar
together
and
all
putting
day.
things
It's
on
gonna
all
be
day
so fun. Like
Okay.
seriously.
So much time to bond.
We're gonna have
I'm so
so much fun.
excited.
And you guys, do you know what? If you need even more of me, I could totally schedule like a breakfast appointment before Marcus's class. Or maybe lunch after. We can spend the whole day together, Jessica.
Why
You
not
and I,
start at
we don't
8
have
and go all
yeah.
the way till 8?
We can.
I mean,
We absolutely
why
can.
stop?
I am here for it.
Why?
So you let me know. I'll bring a couple changes of clothes. It'll be great. Here is Breakthrough 120. If you want to sign up for it, there's the QR code. Guess what? Even if you don't sign up, you can still just show up. There's a wild idea. So come if you want to. Again, today is follow-up. I am a firm believer that more money is lost in follow-up than any other avenue of our business because we don't have good systems in place. So this is all about your follow-up systems and stop letting those leads fall through the cracks. On Wednesday, we're going to be covering all thing appointments. So we're going to master the art of the yes. And then social media is on Thursday and open houses is on Friday. I don't know if that's the actual order. I think it's open houses then social media, but either way, we're going to be there. And Kenneth, I missed you yesterday. You did sign up, so I'm going to call you out and you're going to be there today, right?
Excited for what?
Breakthrough 120. All right. Mega Camp in San Antonio. This is your official last call. I'm just going to tell you guys a little secret. Don't pay tier 2 pricing. Just don't do it. Here's what you're going to do if you want to go. If you want to go, you're going to jump into Facebook and you're going to follow some official groups. Don't follow any crazy, like I am a Keller Williams group. Follow like an actual official group and you're going to see people who bought tickets at early bird prices and something changed in their world and they can no longer go. And you're going to get a ticket for like about $800. Okay. So do not pay tier 2 pricing, but if you want to go, now's the time to get your ticket. If you haven't bought your flights, you might want to consider driving at this point because they are a little bit pricier. But I'm excited to be there. It's going to be action-packed. I'm really excited that they are bringing back mastermind groups at this mega camp, which I think is going to be really powerful. So I'm so
called Red Talks. Did you catch
Red
that?
Talks?
Red Talks.
Red
Oh.
Talks. So those are going to be there. And then also, if you're like, I really want to go to mega camp, but I can't go to San Antonio, there is a digital access pass that you can do for $700, and then you'll get access to the content that you can watch digitally at your leisure. Well, actually, I think it's live. I think it's live. I don't think it's at your leisure. That was a lie.
I want to say I did that for family reunion and it was beneficial.
It is beneficial, right?
Yeah, I did get out of it. It wasn't the same as actually being there, right? Like obviously plan A, but plan B was decent.
Okay, good. This is a good option. So if you guys want to do your own little mega camp, the one thing that I will say that I do know you did different is you actually came here and watched it and you put time in your schedule. So if you buy a digital pass and then you just like think you're going to miraculously find time to attend to the trainings, no, that's probably not going to happen. You need to actually plan it because if it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist, as we know. So if you want to sign up for that, you can do that through this QR code. And as always, this is a new thing, guys. We've never even talked about this. But anytime you're making calls, we talk about lead generation, we talk about different things. Anytime you're making calls, you need to make sure you're doing them in a TCPA friendly and compliant way. And by the way, if you guys ever try to tell anyone I didn't tell you this, I have witnesses in the room every single week that tell me how many times I say this. Like, I think my husband the other night was like, oh, you were talking about TCPA compliance in your dreams. It's weird.
Yeah.
We're going to skip this and come back to it because we have our lunch sponsor today. But how do I get to Boyd's presentation? I'm super excited. Oh, Boyd's going to do it. Okay. Oh, wants and needs. One other quick thing. We're not talking through wants and needs today because I wanted to give Boyd as much time as possible. If you write your wants and needs, like if you want something on this board, you need to come write it right now while Boyd's coming up. We are still going to send these out in our weekly recap emails. So if you have a listing or a buyer that you need to talk about, feel free to come up and write them on the board before the end of our meeting today or at the end of the meeting, and Cindy will send them out with our recap. Okay, Boyd, I am super excited that Boyd is here. I was like, Boyd, I saw that you did this class, and I selfishly actually wanted him to come here and teach it. And he agreed, which was very nice. And we're excited to have you here because I know that it is not common that you venture to this side of the state.
I'm glad to be here.
So thank you for being here, and you can move on.
Thank you, guys. So yeah, Russie saw that I taught this class, and she said, "Oh, will you teach it?" And I'm like, "It is not the most exciting class. It's sort of difficult material, but I want to try to make it light and have fun." So
Tell
who
us
wants
who
to
you are
spend?
first, so everyone knows all
Okay.
about you.
Great. That's great. Thank you, Sean. First of all, I want to acknowledge both Sean and Russie. And part of the reason when Russie asked me about this, I know she cares a lot about you guys. And this is really important stuff to have a discussion about. And Sean, I've known and had great admiration for both of you guys as leaders. You just put a lot into Keller Williams, into your agents and the company. So it's cool to see you guys continue to succeed, and you guys have great leaders here amongst you, so I want to do that. Just really acknowledge that, my admiration for both of you guys. And so my name is Boyd Brown. I've been in the real estate business since a long time. So I got licensed.
We don't talk about dates around here.
I got licensed in Utah in 1995. Had a license for a minute in a different state prior to that. So my real estate license is at least 31 years old. I've renewed it a bunch of times. One of the things when I first got into real estate, the reason I wanted to get into real estate was, what do you guys think?
All the free time we have.
Free time, yeah, that seemed cool, but I wanted to be wealthy. I wanted to make a bunch of cash, and I had some people in my life when I was growing up that were adjacent somehow to the real estate industry that seemed to be have a fairly high level of financial success. And again, everything is relative. I grew up in a small town with a bunch of farmers. So the guy that owned the RE/MAX office, had a little bit newer Buick than the rest of us. But anyway, I saw that was an opportunity. So I wanted to, when I first got into real estate, I was interested in creating wealth. I wanted to be an investor. And luckily I got tied in with a small brokerage early in my career, Miller & Company. And they had a property management company as well as a real estate company. And I really got to see some influence. Kyle, who's a mentor of mine, was my first broker. At the time, the guy was like just under 40, and he had amassed close to 200 rental properties. And so I would sit at the floor desk as a brand new real estate agent, just licensed. We had this thing floor desk. It was next to the reception desk. And I was waiting for people to call that wanted to do real estate or had questions about real estate. We were still mostly using landlines, for those of you who remember that time. But one of the things that really struck me when I was there as a brand new agent is we were on the third floor, and I would sit there and I would just keep hearing this ding, ding. It was the elevator would open, and people would come out of the elevator and hand a check to the lady at the front desk. And they'd turn around and get back in the elevator. And that happened. That was like the end of the month and the beginning of the month. On the 31st and the 1st of every month, there was all this traffic that was making their way to Fort Union in Midvale to hand rent checks to Kyle Miller, my brother. And it just had such an impression on me. And I asked Kyle, I said, man, I don't know what you're doing. But you got all walks of life, people coming in here that look different, they sound different, they act different, but every single month they're coming in and handing you checks. You got to teach me how to do some of that stuff. So luckily I had that influence initially. And I started out with my real estate career. One of the things that helped kind of propel me a little bit, I wanted to sell enough real estate so I could legitimately have some cash to go buy some real estate. And within my first year in real estate, my first year I bought a home for myself to live in and had some roommates. So that was an investment property. And then within a year after that, I bought this little duplex that almost buried me. It was just off of State Street in Sandy. It was a REO property. It was $116,000. And honestly, it took everything I possibly had to scratch together enough money for a down payment on that thing. And just by the grace of God, I filled it up after we did some fix up, but I had a tenant show up within a month. And if it went empty one more month, it probably would have tipped me over financially. And I say that just to let you know, like, whatever stage you're at, I want to be able to connect with you and try to help you think about this. If you're just starting your career, if you've been here for a while, we're going to talk. Hopefully I can come back and teach about investing or talk to you about building wealth or some of those things. That's really fun for me. I also am very involved in land development. That's what I'm doing currently. I build subdivisions and sell them to builders. But most everything I've done professionally has been, the motivation around it has been to collect cash that I can go use to buy hard assets in real estate. Does anyone else think that might be interesting?
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully I can be a resource for you if that's interesting. So today what we're going to talk about, and
And the answer is yes, please come back.
okay. So I'll try not to be a bummer about this, but on Sunday I went to a celebration of life for one of our agents that we've had at our South Valley office for like 15 or 20 years. She's a productivity coach down there. Her name is Terry Scheibtower. Anyone know Terry? Okay, so Terry is a really great lady. She's been in real estate probably as long as Rusty and I have been. And not this last Thanksgiving, but the Thanksgiving before. The family was getting ready for their Thanksgiving stuff, and her husband wasn't feeling well. They took him to the hospital. That started a journey. He had brain cancer. Had really no symptoms 2 weeks before that, other than he was feeling a little off, and he was having some trouble with his vision. So he got diagnosed, and most of that time from Thanksgiving until about a month ago, the family was in a battle for their life, dealing with this glioblastoma. It's brain cancer that's, the results are not great on those things. And so they went through that. So I just bring that up because Justin and Terry weren't planning on that when they started their Thanksgiving. And I'm hoping for them that they had, some time in that to do some planning. But the thing is, if all of you are here, sooner or later, you're going to die. Someone you love is going to die. And again, I'm trying to, this is heavy, but it's going to be light. But these are things we don't want to talk about. People don't necessarily want to talk about their finances, their romances, and some of this stuff heavy. So we're not going to delve into your romances today, as long as you can keep us going on this. But I'm going to share with you, we're talking about trusts, wills, medical directives, power of attorneys. Isn't that exciting?
All the sexy stuff.
Yes.
So it's not sexy stuff. Give me a little grace as I go through this. We're going to try to talk through this. I'm going to have some slides. We can interact and answer some questions. We'll try to move at your pace. I'm just warning you, I actually can be more fun than just talking about trust and wills. So give me that opportunity at some point in the future. So let me share this.
You do want to stop our share.
What's that?
Sorry, I was talking. There you go.
Okay, there we go, perfect. Thank you. So today I'll talk a little bit, shared a little bit of the personal story, and I'll tell you some other reasons why we're doing this. I can share some of things. So for me, the other interesting thing I'm involved in right now, and this is somewhat due to my age, I'm 54 years old. Anyone other than me have elderly parents? So one of the things that I've really learned a lot on this is through my father has dementia. He's in a care facility. And one of the really neat things, again, that's a downer, but the neat things prior to that happening, luckily, my father hasn't been really organized on this stuff for most of his life. But about 3 or 4 years ago, he came to me and he said, hey, I put this whole estate plan together. I have a trust. I have all these things organized, an attorney. And guess what? I'm naming you as my financial power of attorney. I want you to understand where the finances are to help my stepmother, Jody, and the rest of the siblings so that people know where it is. And I had some knowledge of his will and stuff. So again, it's not something I volunteered for or said, hey, I want to do, but I am so grateful now because shortly after, it was about a year after that, he really started getting some of the symptoms of dementia. And if we waited much longer, I mean, honestly, if you guys have been through it, it's not funny, but sometimes you can only laugh at it because it just, once it progresses, like some of the ways my dad thinks, there's no way we could have gotten some of this information out of him to be able to move forward. So again, that has also helped me because of the discussion I had with my father. He said, hey, I want you to know this for myself. And it made me realize that my wife, Kim, and I said, hey, the last time we've done any financial planning or any discussion, will or updates was when our kids were little babies. And the biggest thing we had is we got an insurance policy, and our biggest estate planning was who's going to raise these babies if we're not able to. And so, and then I just put my head down and kept buying real estate, doing my career, raising our babies. And now we're at a point in our life where our babies are raised. They're 21 and 25. And so that's no longer really the priority for us. But it was a good time for me to dig back in, and we spent some time with a group that helped us do a full estate plan and review some of these things, which again, I had put off for probably 20 years after signing up for that first really minor insurance plan. Am I the only one in the room that puts off tough things like that? Everyone else? All right. I feel so alone up here. Okay, so today we could talk about briefly a will. Everybody here kind of knows what a will is, I assume. Okay. We'll talk about a revocable trust. Is that a familiar term to people? And then we can talk a little bit about the two differences in which you should have. This is the two in the middle, I think, are the, and I've got handouts that I'll give you guys on this and share these documents. But these are big ones. The financial power of attorney, and then the medical directives. So those are, hand out those, and I probably need a couple more, which we can do, but I can get you the paper. So who knows what a financial power of attorney allows you to do? Yeah. I think one of the tricky things that we don't really acknowledge our family, and again, I'm trying not to just dwell on death, but I'm trying to have you think about examples why this is interesting. So one of my wife's family's friends, era of my mother-in-law passed away, and she supposedly had all this estate planning and stuff put together, but it was never recorded or turned in. And she had 2 daughters. And what the daughters found out is they couldn't even have access to her bank accounts because they were not on the bank accounts. And so when she passed, even though they thought they were pretty organized, they had to go through a whole process of probate to settle the will and everything before they even had access to her bank accounts to pay her just her regular bills. And the financial power of attorney, we'll get into the document in a minute. I would really challenge you guys, and I'm giving you a copy of this. I think this one and the medical directive, if you do nothing else today, just really think about, okay, do I have that for myself? Is there someone I love that's close to me in my family that needs that? And, use the documents. I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant or any of those things, so I'm giving you free stuff that I've paid for. do with it what you want to, but I also had somebody walk into this class late last time and didn't get the intro, and they thought I was selling insurance, so they came up to me afterwards to see if they could buy some life insurance from me. So I'm not doing that.
Did you sell any?
I'm just a real estate guy. So take this for what it's worth. And then we will, time permitting, we'll talk about the different types of life insurance and then get into some asset protection and things that I can share with you that I've done. So in your handout, the first thing is this group. Any questions so far? Are we tracking? Are you guys, I mean, again, this is not, let's just hang in there. It's not the simplest thing to talk about. So this group, KKOS, there's a Kohler and Sorensen are two guys that I've started to follow. Matt Sorensen has written a bunch of books, and he's a Utah guy, about asset protection. And he does self-directed IRAs, and he does, he's sort of a public figure. So you can find him on
Books. And he has books
yeah,
and
he's
stuff.
got books
Yeah.
about self-directed IRAs. And then the Kohler guy is related to the Kohler that is the lead lobbyist for the Utah Association of Realtors, I believe, or had been for quite a while, their legal counsel. And he's in Arizona, but he's more the law side. And so the two of them together, they have accounting firms and law firms, and they talk a lot about asset protection. And so I went to a seminar with them, paid for their stuff, and bought it. So what I'm giving you is the handout, the first page, is what they give you once you hire them as far as how to organize your thoughts on what your current status is with wills, trusts, who your kids are, your heirs, and some of those things. So again, I'm not getting paid from them. I'm not suggesting you use them. I am suggesting if this is interesting to you, or even if it's not interesting, have some discipline after this class and just sit down with a loved one or something, or by yourself, and go through this and start thinking about, all the questions will start having your mind think about, okay, what things do I have to be prepared for? And again, if you have children, a lot of it should be around directing for their care, or maybe where the funds will flow and some of those things. So that's that first handout. And again, I had a great success with them. They have a package. I think it was about $2,500 that they went and created my trust, a will, and did all these other documents. I think there were some add-ons on that, but it was nice to just be focused. And it was about a 6-week process going through this to have it done. But again, I'm not necessarily advocating for them versus somebody else. There's plenty of attorneys that can help you with that. Let's talk about wills. This is the next form. Who here thinks they have a will? Okay, and those can be pretty unofficial. Again, I'm not judging if you don't, because I probably would have had to raise my hand that I didn't not too long ago. And you can even go on LegalZoom and get a will. I think from what I understand and watching the movies and stuff, you can write a will on paper and have somebody witness it and then hide it in a shoebox. And I believe that's valid. What can happen, though, is, as you know, and you've probably heard, is that some of those things can be challenged. The other thing that's really kind of spooky that I've heard about wills is that maybe grandma has a will, and towards the end of life, or grandpa or something, if they're a little infirm or something and have influence by someone in the family, siblings or something, then maybe the will gets changed, maybe it doesn't. But I have heard on some unfortunate stories about people being really surprised of what's in the will, which again, that's your choice. If you want to surprise your kids, make it exciting. You know,
What are they going to do
that's
to
your
you,
choice.
right? I mean, come on.
In most cases, as you start building some assets, and what I understand is this revocable trust becomes a little bit better tool for us in the long term than just having a will alone. And the nice thing about a revocable trust, I guess I'll use this analogy, is if I want to give that duplex in Sandy to my daughter upon my demise, the will can say that. Maddie gets it, Ashley doesn't, or they split it, whatever it is. But I really don't have any impact to reach in from the grave, so to speak, to dictate how they handle that duplex. So that matters to me because I'm a real estate guy. It could be the same if it was Bitcoin or gold coins or whatever you've amassed as an asset. The thing I found really compelling, there's two things that I found really compelling about going with a trust document as opposed to just a will. And I'm going to try to describe this the way the attorneys describe it to me, is the trust is sort of a living thing and it exists longer than you do. So the idea is that we fund the trust, we put our assets into that trust. Does that make sense? So like our personal residence, Kim and I's personal residence is owned by our trust, and you'll see later how we structured it. So many of our assets are owned by the trust. So that if I pass, there's specific instructions on how all of our assets pass to my surviving spouse and then ultimately to my children. But it doesn't have to go through the state probate, and it isn't subject to other creditors trying to get their hands on it before it passes. Does that make sense? The other neat thing that I can do, and again, this is because I'm a real estate guy, I'm trying to build this, I have this desire to build a real estate empire that lasts and serves multiple generations. Like that is something I've been thinking about, talking about, and working on for a long time. So it's sort of my goal that my kids don't just sell everything I've amassed over, in this case, 30 years, hopefully over 50 years. I plan to live for a long time, maybe longer than that, and just go buy Bitcoin or do something else. I mean, I am reaching from the grave saying, we're a real estate family. I've built this not just for your own stuff, but also so it can provide for other generations, kids and grandkids. Now that's a little aspirational. You may say, hey, I don't, and that's not necessarily that. That was one of the things I liked about it. And we'll kind of talk about some of the terms of that. Can you guys think of where else that might be helpful for you in estate planning, to have a trust versus just a will that dictates where the assets go?
Controls the bickering.
What's that?
Controls the bickering.
Yeah. Yeah, then they can just blame Sean.
Right.
As opposed to their siblings or the executor. I think a will cleans that up somewhat, but also if it's going through probate or there's an executor, you know, I don't know that being the executor of an estate or will would be a glamorous position ever for anybody, because there's always somebody that feels like, you know, you're probably making the wrong decisions. But I think in our trust document, it's like 50 pages of, if this happens, this is our desire to happen, so that if there's bickering or future generations have any question, Boyd and Kim were in their sound mind. They wrote this thing with an attorney and spent a long time doing it, and it spelled out all these things. It is not that one kid got and became the executor of the will or something like that. So just as an example, and I'm sharing my experience, so it might be helpful for you. Upon our demise, both of us, and the nice thing about a trust is everything goes directly to Kim if she survives me, or vice versa, and there's language in here. But once the assets do pass down to our two girls, they can't even sell all those babies. So I put a sort of a schedule on them that they can sell a couple of the residential properties in the first year if they choose to, but that our commercial assets and a certain amount of the other assets they have to hold and manage and be responsible for up to 5 years. Because I want them to get into the business and understand the business of it so that they can make a good decision if these are good assets or not. Now, is that overbearing of me from the grave? Probably. But that's my right, because I bought the stuff. I've worked my ass off to get it. But it is, I think that's for their benefit. Again, so far there's a lot of evidence that I have responsible children, but I don't want to test them at age 22 with, you know, being able to just cash out and go do whatever they want. Does that make sense? Okay. I'll share something else that's a little bit personable with me. I mean, you might say, gosh, that guy's an oversharer. And I might be the only one in this room that has this, but our family has, myself included, some history of drug and alcohol abuse and addiction. Am I the only one that's ever been impacted? Families, so.
Nope.
So I also have seen very wealthy people have kids that are the worst damn drug addicts ever. And they get a hold of that having access to their parents' wealth and assets really does nothing to help solve the problem of drug addiction. Does that make any sense to you guys? So one of the cool things we were able to do, and this isn't because my girls are druggies or even have a lot of evidence that they are, but I'm able to put something in our trust that talks specifically about somebody dealing with either mental health issues or drug and alcohol abuse. And it doesn't mean that they're out completely. It just means, hey, this is a real thing. If it's identified that that's a problem, before they start getting money from rent checks from our real estate property, or before they can control any of the assets, they got to handle the business. And we're okay with money from the trust for the assets going for that care. But probably not going to feed the deal. And that's, man, if you guys have seen people that have access to cash and drug problems, it's not a very good situation. So I think I'm mindful of that when I put this trust together. It's like handing your kid a loaded gun, really.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about it. So that's something I think, I use that as an example of why you might use a trust versus just a will. Can anyone think of another example of that reason why you might want to trust?
A taxability standpoint, right? It's better.
Generally, from a tax, yes, you can do things inside of a trust to manage the inheritance tax potentially, and when the taxes are due. So again, if it's sitting in the trust, you may not have an inheritance tax when it passes as much as you might just strictly from the will. Okay. Any other questions on a trust or a will and the difference in those?
And one key thing I hope you guys heard is the probate piece, because that's a huge thing, is the probate. Because a trust doesn't have to go through probate, but a will does.
Yes. So trust, that's a great point. And this is probably something that's helpful, not just for your own personal lives, but to think about in real estate. A lot of times if somebody dies during a transaction, you're likely held up until that gets through probate and the judge says, yes, you can actually sell that. And a trust, it goes automatically. It just shows the next person who has the authority, the replacement trustee can then execute and move forward as long as they have the authority in the trust. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions on those documents? So again, I don't know that we'll go through every line of this. I'm providing you guys with written copies of these. These are templates pretty close to the documents that Kim and I used for ours. And I would really encourage you, I mean, there's a lot of things you can save money on, but maybe this is something that you get started on, but be willing to spend a little money. But my experience with attorneys, the more prepared you are, the cheaper it's going to be. So if you go through and go through that questionnaire, fill out some of those things and get a good idea. I think the hardest part is just start having a conversation with your spouse or significant other, or think about what you would really want to do with your trust or will. And if you don't have to make this over complicated. This gal who's just getting into real estate, I mean, this is kind of heavy stuff. Like, I don't know that this is your biggest priority. You probably ought to figure out how to fill out a listing contract at a Rep C and go making some money. But it's also worth thinking about and having these discussions. And also, like with your parents, we've been pushing my in-laws for the last 5 years just to get stuff in order. My wife has a mixed family, so it's step kids and some different variations. And I'm just like, this is not going to be great. And I know that my wife handles a lot of, she's really responsible with her parents. There's some other siblings that, in our opinion, probably don't participate as much. But sorting that out, if it's not done by her parents, is probably gonna not be comfortable. So again, hopefully you can think about this stuff with your family in that regard. Any questions so far? Is this helpful?
Yeah, I was gonna say, just an endorsement, not really any questions. I deal with a lot of probate, and well, having this mapped out in a trust versus having it in a will is a game changer for everybody that's left still alive. In terms of making ease of transition and smooth, and in my opinion, the best thing you can do for your kids is have your trust in place, so that way you can even put I forget what the actual clause is called, but you can put clauses in trust that if they try and fight over stuff, that then they get nothing kind of maneuvers. It's a beautiful thing to make that so easy and simple. And if you've never been a part or heard the horror stories of how families fracture over, the couch that is in mom and dad's house, it's insane. People lose their minds. They're not thinking right. There's grief. There's jealousy. There's entitlement. There's all sorts of stuff that you have to deal with. Pecking orders.
Yeah.
So the trust can really save loads of heartache for the people that you care about.
Yeah, and there's real estate. So there's a beautiful piece of property in Harriman. It's about just under 30 acres that I think it was a Danzy family. There's a lot of Danzys in Harriman. They were productive family. They owned a lot of land, and there were a lot of family
They were a
members.
productive family.
They were. But this particular offshoot of the Danzys, this gentleman passed his farm down with the instructions in a will that all the siblings had to agree before they sold the property. There were 13 of them. And so there were, of course, 2 or 3 of them that were essentially became freeloaders. They're like, I got this beautiful piece of property. I can drive my pickup truck on, I can raise animals on it, and I can be a farmer without having to pay for land. And the other kids wanted to sell it to me or anyone that wanted to come to it. And so for years, this would go through this process, and the chance of them getting everybody on board is almost zero at that point. Now, that's an extreme example that the Danzys, I don't know what he was thinking when he did that.
It's an extreme example, but you don't have to have multiples. You only need one person
That won't go along with it.
won't go along with the program to jam it all up, right? Yep.
So anyway, I do think I saw recently that Ivory Homes is building homes out there. So somebody
Somebody
cracked
finally
the
got
code
'em?
somehow. The number was enough. I have no idea what happened.
You get a house and you get a
That
house.
was for me, and if you have 4 or 5 of them encouraging you, saying, yeah, let's go do it, and the rest of them not doing it, that obviously becomes a locked up asset. This one, this living trust is a template, and again, it's yours for the taking. If you want the actual document, we can share the document with you and fill it in. Again, I would encourage you, we don't have time to do it here, but read through it. It'll help you start thinking about some of the things that you may want to put in your trust. Again, the attorneys have a way of adding paragraphs to every sentence to make them longer and make them expensive. But I think I hadn't even read through many of these other than in real estate. I would just read far enough along to find out who actually can sign at a closing. Okay, this one is a big one. This is the durable power of attorney for personal affairs. And I kind of opened with this one as the first step in of my education on this when my dad asked me to do this for him. And I think, and I'm still surprised knowing my dad that he did that. And it wasn't even that he was that organized. I'll tell you, my dad was never really big on dollars and cents and investing. He had his thing he did, and he did it really well, but he never was really into counting and stacking cash. But he ended up, when he retired, he had a retirement account that was from his company that was managed by Fidelity. And over his long career, it got to be a pretty good sized retirement account. And so he was no longer attached to the company he worked for. It was now his account. And one result of that is the Fidelity people kept calling him to try to upsell him on a little more service. They said, hey, you got a pretty good retirement account over here. We want to get you into more investing. We want to call you. We want you to be on sales calls. And the last thing my dad, he was kind of a farmer redneck guy, the last thing he wanted to do was talk to some slick in a suit at Fidelity about what stock or investment. He just is like, hey, it's in a IRA, that's for my retirement for my wife and I, like, just keep going where it's going. I don't really want to talk to you guys, but it was enough money that he qualified for some other level of managed account, which to him was just more calls from these suits, as he would say. So he just got bugged by it. He's like, I'm sick of talking to these guys. And so he figured, he called them, he said, can my son Boyd, he's into that stuff, he understands that, can he just take these calls and why don't you just meet with him every 6 months? And I would just soon have him make the decisions on this. And they said, well, it's not exactly how it works, but there is a process. You can put him on the account, you could have the durable power of attorney. And when we started looking into it, and again, this is maybe more information than you guys need or want, but there are some tax ramifications if I'm actually on the account. So I can be named as someone to have contact on the account, but this power of attorney allows me to be a representative without actually being on the account. If we put me on the account fully, then potentially that could disrupt some of his tax handling as an IRA. Or it could actually show up as an asset I have for certain things, and it wouldn't be correct. And I think a lot of that goes for same thing like your parents' bank accounts. If you have this durable power of attorney with your parents or your spouse, that you can make decisions and you can show up at the bank and they'll tell you what the account balances are and allow you to withdraw money or write checks or make some decisions that way. In a lot of ways, this is a lot cleaner than actually being on the account. And again, think about even your spouse. If you're married to your spouse and they have a checking account at America First or something like that, and something happens to them, they're incapacitated or pass, you can't go in there and say, hey, we're married, I want to take out some money or change the account. So this durable power of attorney lets you do it. This one is that I'm giving you, it gives you basically free range to handle all their financial matters. You can have them in real estate. We have specific power of attorneys. Has anyone heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
So just do specifically for the closing of this duplex or something like that. You're just consigned for this, but you don't have durable. And this one I'm showing you is like, this gives you access, and you can still spell out in there certain things if you want to hold back or to add. But with this particular document, it would allow you, if it's a mother, father, even a brother, sister, or spouse, part of the process when we went through this with my wife is that we each granted each other that durable power of attorney. So that, again, if something happened, and this is part of what made me think about this, is I've collected all sorts of weird things. I own a whole bunch of real estate. I've got deals in our development that are ongoing that honestly, if something happened to me, I don't know that Kim would ever be able to find the bottom of some of these deals because of the stages. Some of them I control by options, some are real estate purchase contracts, some I own them in all these different levels. And I just thought, man, if Kim ever had to come into the office and try to sort through all these different things, I've got private lenders, I've got a lot of things for her to sort out. This is sort of an answer to that, because one of the things I granted my wife when we started having kids is we stopped getting mortgages together just because it was a hassle for her to do that, and then we would quit claim her onto the properties or something like that. But it's also for us strategically, we really didn't want her to have to be on 20 rental property mortgages. And again, we had to talk through that because I wanted to make sure she knew that she's entitled to all the benefits of the asset, but she doesn't have the obligation. So if old boy tips the family over, that's on me, and she still could survive that as a credit. So that's more of a planning thing. But this durable power of attorney, when I looked at it and thought about being able to do it with my father, I thought, man, for my wife to be able to have that and even make decisions. So we do have ownership in a couple of Keller Williams offices, so that would be a good example. I think my partners all really like my wife, Kim. They get along great, but they don't want her to be making decisions for the best, and I don't think the agents would, because she's just not been involved in it. And I know for sure my wife, Kim, doesn't want to have to make those decisions. And so it's really clear that she can sign things, and in our trust, it spells out for the Keller Williams franchises, who's in charge, who makes the decisions, and how we behave in that. And again, it's good in partnership so that you know you're somewhat protected. We all think our spouse is rational. I think Kim is pretty rational, but it would be a little bit spooky if she wasn't rational and came in and said, all right, boys out of the picture, as the new sheriff in town, we're doing this, we like gold jackets, let's do that, or something like that. So having this power of attorney, I really think, guys, for what I've been through with my dad, I would encourage you, if you don't think your parents, or if you have some elderly folks, or even a spouse that may not be married, or a sibling that may not be married, or somebody to do that, I mean, this would be a really good one to approach with them. Anyone have someone they're thinking of right now that might be a little overdue to have this conversation? No? What do you smile?
I don't know. I always smile.
All right, fair enough.
What are you smiling about?
She's thinking of a list in her head. She's like, oh, there's a long list here.
Any other questions on that one? Would anyone here raise their hand and agree that they're going to go through and actually do one of these specific, the financial power of attorney?
It's super smart. I was just thinking, even for my parents, I'm like trying to think of what their stuff is, because I'm like, I think I'm somebody that has to sign on things for my parents, but I know that this doesn't exist. And I'm like, so if one or the other of them or both, like it's going to be a process to go through to even be able to pay their utilities out of their own accounts, right?
My guess is if your parents have had the discussion with you, they may have you as the executor of their estate. That may be spelled out a little bit in their will, but there's still that moment, even in the grieving, of trying to figure out how to come up with some of those things. But I think this is a good conversation piece to go back to your parents and just say, hey, where are we on this stuff? I will tell you, my dad, we celebrated his 80th birthday party. We had a big thing, and I just was looking at some of the pictures of it. He was full of life and was tracking. It was his favorite place, all this stuff, his normal self. And within 3 or 4 months, the dementia, he kind of hit a wall. Like, honestly, and 6 months later, it was clear he shouldn't be making financial decisions. So we didn't see that one coming, really. And that's the thing. I think we all think that there's going to be another time we can do it, and it can sneak up on you. So especially with your parents, if they're already engaged in the conversation, maybe pull them. This might be a good document to share with them or talk to them about.
Yeah, well, as a way to just validate what you're saying, my mother lived for 12 years with very severe dementia, Alzheimer's. That's what she passed from. My father was lucid till the day he died. In fact, he literally planned his death, said, I'm calling hospice, and 2 days later they delivered a bed and he laid down in it and died. So,
sweet.
But here's the interesting thing is that we thought mom would go long before dad. Long before. And it didn't play out that way. And so I have 2 brother-in-laws, one who's an attorney and one who's an accountant. So we had some high-level skill in the family to handle these types of issues. We gave power of attorney to the brother-in-law who's an accountant, and when dad passed, he was able, on my mother's behalf, to manage things that, to your point, we would have been in probate, we would have had all kinds of hoops to jump through had we not been prepared. And so sometimes best laid plans actually turn out even different than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. I was going to ask how many people know when we're going to die. Like we always have in our mind, like we
Yeah.
think one spouse is going to last longer than the
Yeah.
other. And a lot of our estate planning is based on that.
Right.
And yet there is no straight line on that, especially, I mean, with what you talked about with your mom being able to make decisions while your
well,
father's still
I
living.
mean, she didn't speak for the last almost 10 years of her life. So long before Dad passed, she was already completely unable to participate in anything. So,
Yeah, my dad, he believes he was at the Alamo. He spent most of his life in Pennsylvania. He now lives in Texas. But last time I took him out, we went to a Subway sandwich shop, and a dude walked in with a cowboy hat, and my dad was like, "Were you at the Alamo?" Like I was. Like I don't think you're at the Alamo. But he also learned not to argue with us. I'm like, oh, what do we actually do at the Alamo, Dad? So, thank you for sharing that. Anything else on those? Thanks, guys, for engaging in this. Again, these are not easy, but I do think they affect all of us. So this one, just check out time. This one is the Advanced Healthcare Directive, and that is in your handout also. This one, I think more people are at least aware of and have had some conversations about it. But this allows you to say whether you want to be resuscitated or how many life-saving efforts they want to do. And I think this is something that old people talk about more. It's probably their physicians bring it up to them. So I'm familiar with it with old folks, but it also probably does impact if something happened in a car wreck or something like that. God forbid if there was some, if you're on a life-saving device, kind of having what your desire would be. But also in the case with my, again, this is not about my dad or my family. I'm just trying to make it relatable to you guys. All of you have things in your families that may make sense, but in getting care without this authority, like my sister who is in the medical business, like she wants to follow along with what's going on with the old folks. All of our, parents, I have step parents on both sides, but so we have 4 living parents at this point on both sides. But there's no, like, if you call the doctor after an exam or something to say, hey, what's the update, what's going on, they really can't share any of that information with you. There's some chance if you're right there with them at the hospital, you'll get some information. But it is the line on that sharing medical is very, it's pretty clear that if you're not, my wife found out that the hard way after our kids turned 18. She's like, hey, what's going on? And even the family physician, and the family physician is like, hey, I've known you since your kid was 3, but she's now 18. So if she wants to share the information with you, she can, but
I can't.
you're, the whole speech about I'm her mother, all this didn't go anywhere. So this does allow you to spell that out and give somebody else the directive so they can at least make some decisions for you medically. And this one, again, would be an easy one to go through if you do nothing else but to think about the power of attorney, to have somebody be able to have some control over your finances and your medical care. Again, I think that would be a good place to start.
I think this one too is one you don't think about, but this is much, much harder to get. If someone does become like mentally incapacitated, it's much harder to, if they're not making good decisions for their own health. Like I have a friend that had her spouse had some pretty significant strokes and stuff like that, and really he should not be making decisions. And it's much harder to get someone declared incapable of making their own medical decisions versus something like this that they already would have, that they could have conversations with the doctor openly. So something, I think we kind of go, yeah, for older people, right? But you just never know when you're going to need it, regardless of what happens.
Gives me the chills thinking about one of the points you just made. Like, if you don't have some of this stuff in place, part of the process is you have to go have somebody declared mentally incompetent.
Yes.
And if they're struggling with mental health or dementia or has a stroke, like the process of going through and having your spouse declared mentally incompetent, it just doesn't seem like it'd be that great.
It's not easy, and it's long
for
process.
anybody.
It's hard.
Particularly if they're not a willing participant. So maybe it's easier. It's hard to have the conversation now, but it might be harder if you play this thing out. So any other questions on those documents? Okay. We having fun yet? Sorry, guys. Oh, got anything to lighten the mood?
I don't, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Fractional ownership with some amount of property. Does everyone have to have a trust as well to
No.
do that, or?
Great question. So you have a fractional ownership or a partnership with something. What's that?
We own a cabin all together.
Yes.
Yeah, the three of us.
So it's probably deeded as tenants in common right now, or are you an LLC?
We're all on there.
Okay. So that's sort of a real estate thing. You probably own it as tenants in common because you can really only own property jointly with a spouse, I understand. So you have an undivided interest in that. So I think the proper way to do that is that you would replace you as a tenant in common, your personal ownership with either an LLC or your trust could own that.
Oh,
Yes, and so then your share of that property would go down through it. And I could talk to you a little bit more about that when we get into structure, but I think that brings up a really good point for why we do all this stuff. Again, these are all the little complexities and spider webs that I was involved in. I probably have partnerships on properties, all these different things, entities of businesses we're in, where I just thought, man, I don't know how anyone in my family would ever unwind that. So that one, and those are all family members?
correct. Well, one of them is my brother-in-law, but my sister is no longer alive, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and those are the kind of things that happen. I'd be happy to talk to you a little bit about that. I have some thoughts on it, but I think
Because we all have our own separate personal homes as well, and so.
yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what the best way would be.
And this is real estate, and the gal that just learned their real estate classes, they talk about tenancy, how you take it. One of the tenant in common has some advantages because you can have undivided interest. One of the disadvantages is just by the nature, since you all actually own a portion of that, and undivided, you all have to sign the deed. So essentially, you created the situation that all three parties have to decide on a sale or to take a mortgage or
I don't
something
think
like
that
that.
would be a problem. But
But what if that asset still exists in 40 years?
Until you do.
my dad is getting older and
Yeah.
he's 73 this year, and so
I got everything.
I don't know how it would work with two people that are married, like me and my husband, my mom and dad, and then my brother-in-law. It's not my sister's not here anymore, so.
That's where it gets, I think, the rights of survivorship on those, and then the heirs and things like that get a little tricky. Because again, not to put the hex on you or anything, but if anything were to happen to you,
Right.
and your ownership in that cabin presumably would be dictated by your will or a trust, so that either goes to your spouse or your children or some heirs. And so now all of a sudden there's three more people trying to make a decision with the existing, and it could happen the same way
Yeah,
on
we
the
all
other
had
three.
a really big ideas when we all bought it together, so I'd like to get that all on who it would go
It's
to.
great that you own it, and it's great that you all get along on it, and this might be a good way to introduce the topic to just say, hey, let's think about what our best structure is, because even the way it's set up, you could probably have some operating agreement amongst yourselves about how you handle decisions. Usually where most partnerships fall apart is on exit. Almost never do we want to get out at the same time. Our motivation changes over time, and most of the attorneys that have gotten wealthy have been writing about how you break up in partnerships. Like that is one of the key pieces. And again, it's nice that you're all getting along right now. And if you run that asset forward for 30 years, the chances of there not being some difference in
Right.
priorities would be really rare. So, yes.
Can we just say that question out loud? We have 17 participants on Zoom.
Say that again?
We have 7. Can you just say that?
Yeah, so the
Your original
question,
a little bit louder? Or
I'll say it. So the question was, she was asking specifically about how you would handle a family cabin that's owned by 3 of them. So they own it as tenant in common. And she was trying to get a little bit of advice on how you might address that. And my initial answer was that if you go through this estate planning and have a trust, that your trust would own that share, that 1/3 share of that cabin. That protects kind of what would happen on your share, but it doesn't necessarily resolve how the others would behave in that. So I do think that there could be some other legal documents and agreements between you and the other 2 parties that might be helpful on that. But I would think for you personally, if it's in a trust or an LLC as opposed to HELP, another reason to do that is if something goes terribly wrong on that, you don't necessarily want the liability from that to come. You said you and your husband own your own personal house together. I mean, that would, part of the asset protection is also eliminating some of the liability that could be caused in other ventures. And that was something that's pretty important to me too. I mean, some of these goofy development deals and investments that I do, we never want to I wouldn't want to put my wife and our family home at as much risk as what I'm willing to do on some of these speculative projects.
The same thing goes for my parents, because their house is paid off, and I would want to put that on them if something happened to us, or, I'd like to figure that all out.
Yeah, that is a really good example of a reason I think to kind of progress on that. I don't know that I have the exact answer, but the time to do that is when all 3 of you are in agreement and getting along. That when the minute somebody wants to break away from the herd or is in disagreement with you guys, it's a lot harder to get an agreement. Good question.
At this point, the money is-
Yeah.
Okay, how are we doing on time?
About 10 more minutes.
You said we're going till 5.
Yeah, 5 p.m. Yes,
Okay, so-
perfect.
Actually, yes, I would love it. You can just take over and bring
I'll
to
go
one.
real quickly, yes, even though I'm busy schedule, so I'll go real quickly on this one. Insurance becomes a really important part of this process, and again, I am not selling insurance. I'm probably not a huge advocate of insurance. You can get way more insurance than you need. But just for the terms of estate planning and what's really smart for you guys, I really recommend having some life insurance. And so we know the 2 kinds are term life insurance. Do you guys know what that is? That's cheap, relatively cheap. It's not to be confused with an investment tool. It just covers you for a certain term. So if I bought it when I was 30 years old, typically I would buy it for a 10-year term. And you can go to like ethos.com or select quote or your insurance guy and just ask them for a term life policy. And if you're young or new in the business, maybe just get a policy of like $100,000 or something. It used to be pretty popular or decent advice to get enough to cover your mortgage, to pay off your mortgage so that your kids or spouse gets a house when it's done. Those are things you can look at. For me, I got term life insurance when I was early in real estate. The guy was an insurance agent. He agreed to give me his listing if I bought this variable life policy from him. I had to spend half of my commission on this policy. And in hindsight, it was a great policy. It did have some cash accumulating in it, but I felt good. I had $300,000 of life insurance and my goal in life was to be worth more to my wife alive than dead. And it took me a few years, but I finally got it. So again, I'm not an advocate, but I think if you have a family and you've got stuff going on, even start small. You can get a $100,000 policy. It's probably $25 or $30 a month. I have policies for a couple of $1 million, and it's a few $100s a month. Like, it's not that expensive. It gets more expensive as you get older. I mean, for whatever, that's a good thing for you guys who are younger, but hopefully you don't have to use it. The other piece I'll just mention in here is a whole life policy. This one probably becomes a little bit more of an asset for estate planning. And that one does accumulate. Like, you can put money in that. It's kind of like a savings account. There's some tax deferral advantages. And also, if you get into the really high net worth, there's some sophisticated strategies that high net worth people use to, if if assets are in your whole life policy, it does not become part of your, it's actually outside of your estate for estate tax planning purposes. But for most of us, I think the limit right now on estate taxes is somewhere in the $9 to $10 million range. So unless if that's your issue, give me a call, we'll talk about it. But
Give him a call, he
I
wants
think-
you to invest in
again,
a couple developments.
I think you ought to have some insurance, and I'm not advocating either way. I've started investing and I'm more involved in whole life policy, and that is for more tax advantages. It actually acts similar to Roth or something like that we can get some money in there that grows tax-free. So, and also, again, part of the idea is that there would be coverage there for some of these rental properties and mortgages so that my wife doesn't have to worry about those things when we pass. Anyone here feel strongly about life insurance and want to add to what I've had there?
You can actually borrow against it as well.
Yes, and that is part of what got me re-interested in the whole life, is that we use a lot of hard money for our development deals, and we pay 11 or 12%. And if you get cash accumulated in a whole life policy, you can basically borrow it from yourself at a set rate, which is much less than 11%. And the policy still returns that fixed amount. So it's basically a wash. So there is a whole theory out there. It's called self-banking or private banking that the internet gurus are selling. And I took the hook a little bit, and I'm looking into it to see how we can use that for real estate investing. But I don't know that you ought to go get over-insured just so you can borrow money from yourself. Like, I think it's an interesting
It's a strategy.
tool and a strategy. And that was, I think, the product someone wanted to buy from me the last time I taught the class. I'm not sure.
I just think at a minimum, it's really important. We see this a lot in our industry, people that just don't have any type of life insurance. And the reality is, depending on what you're doing right now with your income, if you die tomorrow, does your business continue to pay your family? Do you continue to be able to make your mortgage payments? So I just think it's really critical, especially, even just a term policy, like you said, is so inexpensive. There's just really no reason why you shouldn't do it. And a lot of this stuff, listen, guys, like, I know this isn't like the sexy topics, right? Like, Boyd will come back and talk to us about the sexy topics too, but this is so critical. And it really is, like, you are protecting your assets, and you're really doing the people that you love a big disservice if you're not taking this stuff seriously. And that was one of the big reasons I wanted you to come today. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it is, it's nice that Rafi cares that much about you guys, because this really isn't about selling more real estate and making more money. So I appreciate you indulging us a little bit, and hopefully there's something here that you can take action on.
Yeah.
And
And this is like, gosh, that's huge to share that too.
That's a lot. And I also, if you want the Word documents or something, then I think either the sign up sheet or get the front desk and send me, and I'll share documents with you on that. So I'm going to try to land the plane here in the next few minutes. So we talked a little bit about asset protection. And this is this Kohler gentleman. I can't think of his first name. Can you? Mark Kohler.
Mark J. Kohler.
Mark J. Kohler, yeah. So this is a trademark thing that he has called the trifecta. And again, he has 2-day tax and estate planning. If you guys really want to geek out on this stuff, spend the 2 days with him. If not, just listen to some of his podcasts. He literally will go through a lot of these different pieces on his podcast. But one of the things that kind of opened my eyes to this, and this might be a little bit helpful for you, and this is, as we're doing our real estate over here, if you think about what your business is, this is sort of an operating business. So most of you should, if you don't, think about having your commission business within an LLC. I think most of us have kind of gone that. And sometimes, depending on the size of that, it can become an S corporation also. And again, Kohler will have podcasts talking about the differences in designating your LLC as an S corp. But really, this trifecta talks about putting a wall to protect your assets. So this wall over here, all of your operating business is over here on the left in this LLC or S corporation. On the right are your assets that you own. So if you own real estate, cryptocurrency, which he's big on. I don't know enough about it to talk about it. And your different investment accounts can be over on this side so that they're protected. Again, if we mess up somehow in business through our real estate dealings or an investment property or something, you really want to, part of what attorneys do with LLCs and stuff is to try to separate that liability so that at this point in my life, after 31 freaking years of working my butt off to get a bunch of rental properties, if one tenant mishap, they can't come clawing and grab everything we've got, if that makes sense. So this, again, with Kohler is called the trifecta, and you can see that the S Corp is actually owned by the trust. So I operate now as BB Sold, which is what I've been since I first got into real estate. BB Sold is an operating agreement. I have some employees in BB Sold, and then BB Sold owns some of my other operating entities, like the Keller Williams offices. So that there's that level of protection between Mrs. Brown and myself and these operations that I've done. I've invested in title companies, insurance companies, real estate companies. It's all real estate basically related, but it does separate liability if I want to take on stuff that's more risk than we want to take on as a couple. So this is something important to look at. And then BB Sold, so instead of my trust being the owner of all these things, BB Sold is, and then the trust owns BB Sold. Does that make, so again, it keeps the accountants and the attorneys busy, unfortunately. You have to pay, there's some filing and some tax stuff that's a little bit cumbersome. But after a while, working for 25 years, I look up and, wow, I do have a couple of assets that are worth protecting. When I first started, I really didn't. I mean, that Toyota 4Runner, which was a sweet car. But it wasn't, I couldn't afford to pay attorneys to just protect me on that beat up old 4Runner. And then over here, these LLCs, so on mine, I have a, this is what mine looks like in actuality. So these blue dots over here are real estate assets, and some of them I own like you do in partnerships where I just own pieces of them. So like these are all either individual buildings or clusters of rental properties, and those are owned by a holding company. So this is an operating company. I'm out doing work and getting paid for my work or owning businesses. Over on this side, these are assets that are long-term assets that hopefully we're making money on, but we're also creating some liability over here. I wouldn't want this liability. Let's say I don't have as good of a broker as you guys do, and I screw up a real estate purchase contract and create some liability for myself. If that happens inside of BB Sold, I got a fax machine, I got a computer, the company owns some assets, but not a ton of assets. So it would be hard for them to penetrate through that. They could try to penetrate into some of these businesses, but there's a layer of liability protection between them. This wall over here, the likelihood of any activity over here being able to penetrate this holding company, which, and again, this is through Kohler and some others. I'm not suggesting this. It's probably a little bit overkill, but this holding company is actually, it's a Wyoming corporation. There's specific reasons to do that. And this is Cam Holdings, which is Kim, my wife, Ashley and Madison, my two kids, and me, Boyd, up the last in line on that one. But Cam Holdings, so that group owns all these rental properties, and so the P&Ls or the tax returns from these file into this, and that's all owned by the trust. Is that, this is a little bit complex, but I think the handout on the trifecta, if you want to have a specific conversation about assets you have, I'd be happy to talk to you about them. I'm probably not as qualified to talk about some of the IRAs and so forth, but if you have those or your family has those, it would be nice. Part of the reason to have those is those are protected against creditors. And I believe even if you file bankruptcy, I think that a IRA is protected, which is good. As you think about this, you want to get more of your assets with less risk moving forward. Does that make sense? And it doesn't mean that you go out and act like a complete savage. You're not above the law just because you have an LLC. But that is, and then you can see that the life insurance, investment accounts and things all can still be owned by that trust. And that files down through as one 1040. Does that make sense to you guys? Is it helpful to see the diagram? When Kohler went through that and walked through it, it was kind of opened up, it was a little eye-opening for me and helped. So any questions on that? This is, if you guys want, you can take a picture of this. I don't know if it's in the handout, but this is, oh yeah, this is the attorney. He's in Cedar City that did my work. Again, I'm not getting a spiff from him that I'm aware of. And then that's our trust. So I think that's probably a good stopping point for me. Would certainly take any questions.
I think it's in one of those things.
Yeah, it's in the packet too. And I also have this digitally that I can send out with the recap as well.
Will you, the one thing I'll just ask on that digital file that I shared with you, I think is a full copy of my executed trust.
Oh, it is?
Let's not send
Let's
that.
not send
I'm
that.
gonna pull that out of the file. I wanted
Let's
to
go
be
ahead
able to
and pull
have
that
this.
out. Thank you.
Again, I shared with you some of the more personal stuff in it, but I don't think that it's great practice to have that on the interwebs floating around.
We don't need to share that one, boy. Thank you, girl.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll pull that out for sure.
I don't know what you would do with it, but I think it just doesn't seem like right.
Just feels like the wrong move.
Any other quick questions?
I have a question.
Yes,
This
Sean.
is probably something that doesn't apply to most people in the room, but I think it does apply to you. Have you done any of that equity scraping?
You're drawing a blank.
No.
Equity scraping. So there's companies out there that when you get, let's say you're far, from my side, you're far right, your blue dots. They basically go into anything that you have a lot of assets in and remove the assets to offshore accounts. So they basically they put liens on properties as they go up. But it protects it from any liability.
I haven't done that. It's amazing how many different little nuances there are. I think the more I learn, the more I know I don't know. I mean, an example of that is some of this cost segregation stuff. I own rental properties for 15 years. And when someone started to describe that to me, I'm like, that's got to be illegal.
I know I've been in some
Right.
circles where that's the
Yeah.
equity scraping's been talked about, but I don't know anyone who's basically done it.
Now, the last time I remember hearing about equity scraping was about 15 years ago before 08. There were some vehicles where people were able to do something like that, where they were pledging a portion of their equity to go speculate on other real estate. This one sounds more like they're trying to put it someplace safer.
Yeah.
As opposed to take risks. So no, I'm not familiar with that. But I'll let you teach that one. once
Yeah, I
you
don't
learn
know, I don't know much about it.
So
I just didn't know. I thought maybe that was something that you explored and opted not to do.
for this is for better or for worse, I've been sort of the slow boat, just keep buying real estate and trying to pay it off. I've really been fairly disciplined. I've never taken a home equity line on my house. And I'm not saying that's right for everybody, but because of the amount of risk I take in my development stuff, that was just one of the deals I made with my wife. I'm like, everything else will be completely at risk. And between 25 and 40 years old, I'm swinging for the fences, but you know, Kim and I have just had the agreement, like if I can't get money without leveraging our house, then I'm not doing the deal. And living through 2008, I'm just so grateful because I know a lot of guys in my shoes that, I mean, we lost our butts on a lot of stuff in 08, but we still had a house. And I think my wife would still be mad at me if we didn't. I'm pretty sure, and she should be.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thanks, guys, for trying to keep that light.
Boy, thank you so much. That was really helpful information. And you guys, I hope you're listening and taking it seriously because it really is super important. And I know you have conversations like this regularly with people, and so do I, that they're so at risk. So thank you for coming and doing that
Thanks
for us.
having me.
And we will definitely have you back
All
for
right,
something,
for more
whatever
time.
else you want to talk about.
Okay.
Something more fun.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Boyd.
Thank you.
We have on Zoom, our lunch sponsor today is Cindy and Tony. They are on Zoom, and these guys are want to talk to you about a development that they have in Mesquite. So I'm going to make sure our volume's up here. Tony, are you still online?
I am online.
Awesome. Maybe we should see Tony's face. Do you want to see your face instead of this?
They have a flyer to show,
Oh,
so
okay.
Tony, it's up to you.
Okay. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's your flyer. Okay, Tony, take it away. The time is yours, my friend.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I was just calling, or we were just here. We want to do a little introduction on the Vista Del Luna townhomes. And I also want to make sure that everybody enjoyed their lunch. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it.
They're going to enjoy it shortly.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll just dangle the carrot in front of your face then. How's that? So anyway, good afternoon. I hope everybody's having a great day. And just out of curiosity I can't see everybody, but how many people have been to Mesquite?
On the freeway.
Yeah, either to get gas on the way to Vegas or just a good little pit stop. Anyway, my goal today is to show you why investors are discovering Mesquite and to give you another opportunity to help your clients and hopefully become a trusted referral partner for you guys. So most people, when they think about Mesquite, they're thinking about casinos, golf, retirement, and I mean, with some of the responses there, obviously a pit stop on your way to partying in Vegas. So we get roughly 900,000 to 1 million people that visit us every year. They come here for our championship golf courses. We have youth sports events for soccer and flag football. We do a lot of adult softball tournaments out here. We have tons of ATV trails. You can get all the way to the north rim of the Grand Canyon up over the Virgin Mountains. A lot of hiking trails. The Casablanca and the Eureka like to put on a bunch of concerts. Plus we have great winter weather where you guys are shoveling snow and we're shoveling sunshine. So why Vista Del Luna? It's a brand new townhome project. We have 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, 2-car garage. It's a nice modern floor plan. We've got 3 different kitchen designs. So I think on the flyer, it should show a couple of the kitchen designs. And then we've got a clubhouse and a pool that they're working on now about putting it in. And then we've got the whole community is short-term rental approved and they start at $349,000. So not a horrible price. Compared to what you can buy for this size and this new in anywhere in Utah, basically. And I understand and know that a little bit because I'm from Taylorsville. I grew up in Taylorsville, Utah. I lived there for basically 45 years. And then my wife and I bought us a getaway house in Mesquite. And once the 3 kids were gone, we decided that we liked sunshine. So we moved down to Mesquite. So I completely understand the way of life in Utah. The good investor benefits here for the Vista Del Luna project is it's all new construction, low maintenance, modern design, and ready for the travelers, whether you're on your way to Vegas or you're just coming out to play for the weekend. I'm not asking you to become an expert in Mesquite, but just remember the opportunity about Vista Del Luna. When you have an investor, vacation home buyer, someone interested in a short-term rental, I'd love it if you'd think of us out here. It's a great community. And one of you guys' own, Blaine, he has actually purchased one out here and has enjoyed his time out here golfing. And as he drives out to Vegas and plays a little bit and then is able to come back to his own house and relax. Anyway, I would be the boots on the ground. I would help any of your investors or clients that are looking to even purchase it. They don't have to be short-term rentals. They can live in them. There are a few families that are already living in there. When you refer a client, I'll communicate with you through the whole process. I'll help you take care of all your clients' needs. I'll protect the relationship with you and your client plus me. And then they'll always remain your client when they're back at home in Salt Lake, and then we can just help them work either out here in Mesquite. So my goal is the long-term referral partnership. And if you have any clients looking for investment properties, vacation homes, short-term rental opportunities, I'd love to be the one to help you guys out. Please take your brochures and go through them. And if you have any other questions about our project, you could email me at tonyandmesquite@kw.com. And I would love to answer any of your questions that you have on the project or just anything about Mesquite in general. I'd love to help anybody out with. I know I don't have much time. I'd love for you guys to get on with your day and eat some lunch. So that's basically all we've got for today, was just to give you a little tidbits about Vista Del Luna and hopefully maybe see if you had any clients that were looking to move out here or invest out here.
This is awesome, Tony. Thanks. Those HOA dues are super low, 141. Do you anticipate, is that without the pool, once the pool goes in, those will go up, or is that the cost of the HOA?
So at the first of the project, they had talked that that was going to stay the same, but the way the world is now and the way everything's changing, I definitely would not say that it wouldn't go up once the pool and clubhouse came in.
Okay. Yeah, that's super affordable. And you have people in there right now renting these, so you could show rental history?
We actually have, Blaine is the only one that has it as an investor. We've got, in the 2 stories, we've got 3 other families that are living in there.
Okay.
But being in Mesquite, where, a lot of it is retirement, we don't have anybody looking at our 3-story project just because of the stairs. But we're hoping to get that moving a little bit, and they're in the midst of trying to redesign for the footprint where the 3 stories are at. They're trying to redesign another set of 2 stories to put where the 3-story units are right now.
Okay. Awesome.
Can I say something, Russie?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, Blaine has a house down there. They're so nice, especially for the price. And it's literally maybe a 5-minute drive from the Casablanca. Super short drive to Falcon Ridge Golf Course. And Tony and Cindy are awesome. They kept an eye on things down there for him and put packages in the house. So,
UPS would drop off the packages and nobody would know.
Yeah. So they're awesome. Gave recommendations for handymen, anything Blaine was looking for. And I think literally the day he made it live on VRBO and Airbnb, I think he got a booking that week. So it's already being rented out.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We'll include your info with our recap that goes out, as well as this flyer. And thank you so much for lunch and for being here today. That was awesome.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate y'all, and let's go make some money.
All right, lunch is here. As a quick reminder, if you have wants or needs, add them onto the board for Arsenio sends those out. And then I know Boyd's not in the room anymore, but huge thank you to Boyd, because I know that is not always the funnest topic, but it is an important one. So anyway, tell him thanks next time you see him.
And everyone's dying. We just don't know when.
We just don't know when.
Stuff
And I'm not kidding when I say he doesn't normally just come up to this area to teach, so that was huge for him to be here today. So thanks, guys. Oh, and he didn't talk about this, but he is constantly buying land. So if you guys know of land that you want to get involved in developing, call him. Yep.